Hello students, Miss Slyman here. And I just wanted to come back and make sure that we're all on the same page with our toolkitting of extrema and critical points. So hopefully from this Apple stock activity that you did, you've looked online, you've seen your answers, and checked that what you thought was correct. And if not, make sure you come in and ask me. But I want to come in and talk about our toolkitting of our extrema and our critical points. So extrema, that's when we're talking about maxes and mins. So extrema are either our global or local maxes and mins. Global maxes and mins, local maxes and mins. So those can happen at a variety of points. They can either happen at endpoints for closed intervals, or at turning points. So let's look at something like, I'll have a closed interval come up and something like this. So in this scenario, this turning point here is going to be a local max. So I'm going to call that an L max. This endpoint here is a local min. This turning point here is a global and local min. And this endpoint here is a global max. Pretend like that says global. All right, so they can be either endpoints if it's included, if it's a closed interval, or turning points. Like we saw with extreme value theorem, closed intervals will always have a global min and a global max for a continuous function. On an open interval, continuous functions will only have local mins and local maxes at turning points. They could also be global, but again, they'll be at turning points. Now this word critical points are anywhere that my first derivative is either, so let me just shrink this down a little bit. All right, so critical points happen are where the first derivative is 0. So that would be any of my turning points, although not necessarily a turning point, because as we saw in our stock game, at some point you could have a change of value that's 0, but then you could keep increasing. So in this case, first derivative is 0, but it's not a turning point, but I would call it a critical point. Or a critical point happens when the first derivative does not exist. So that could be an asymptotic discontinuity. It could also be something like an absolute value graph, such as this situation. So I have a critical point here where the first derivative does not exist. All right, so that's critical points, extrema, and I talked a little bit about EVT, but you've already toolkitted EVT earlier. Again, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in class.